Hello and welcome to this session for where we are going to be discussing leading change during upheaval. My name is Sudhir Singh Dungarpur. I'm a partner with PwC, and I have today with me Shrikant from Factorial, who founded Factorial, who's the CEO of Factorial, and then we have Ashok Sethi. Ashok, the CEO for EMEA Resources for the Publicis Group. We couldn't have found two better people to really speak about, leading change during this upheaval. And what I'm going to be doing is for the next 40 minutes or 45 minutes, speaking to Shrikant and Ashok, and obviously giving our experiences on how we dealt with it within our firm, and speaking about what we went through, how did the leadership change and deal with the change that was happening, what are our lessons from this? Because crisis, whether we are talking about the upheaval which we've just gone through, or what may happen in the future, or what are the learnings from what we may have had in the past, I think dealing with crisis is something that we are going to be doing throughout our lives. It's what we get out of this and what we learn and how we become resilient and what we set for making sure we manage these really well going forward is what actually makes our organizations far more resilient towards whatever is going to be happening. So with that, let me start this panel discussion. Maybe Shrikant, I'm going to ask you first, right? Obviously we've been through this upheaval. We've been through an upheaval last year, and I'm sure, over the last few years, we've been going through our own crises, right? But obviously the last 2 years have been quite challenging for us. How did your organization deal with it? And what have been the learnings, or let me not come to the learnings, but how did you deal with it, and what really worked for you, what didn't work for you? Just wanted to start that conversation.
Yes, the crisis started very suddenly, right? Last year, when Donald Trump was visiting India in end of February 2020, it felt like there was nothing to be worried about if the US president is visiting us. Literally a week later, we knew that this crisis had become something more than what it seemed to be. Luckily for us, at Fractal, we had this policy of work from anywhere at any point for about 5 years already. From 2015, we had set it up in such a way that people could work from anywhere. So we decided to test those systems out. We all took a day's break. We all worked from home for 1 day and saw whether the systems would work. And remarkably, there was no glitches. So that was 9th of March. And by 15th, I think we were anyway, there was no longer a theoretical possibility. It was a real thing. And we all started working from home, and it was extremely smooth from just being able to work and serve clients that we do. Soon we started to realize that, you have to visualize everything that can go wrong in that period, right? And you started realizing that people have traveled across various parts of the country. There were 160 locations that Fractalites were based out of in a very short span of time. And therefore, when they are working with their laptops might malfunction, or they may have some technical issues, and we may have to ship new laptops, and the whole country is locked down. So, we soon realized that all the preparation still meant that there was a lot of new things to discover as the crisis unfolded. You cannot really fully understand a crisis in its entirety, even though you may visualize it. I think there are still facets of it which are unknown to you. The one thing we immediately realized was that business could take a hit. I had personally seen how the 2009 crisis had affected Fractal, and generally any firm in the professional services or client services business was very severely affected in 2009. And while we thought analytics is an area which was growing, it's a nascent industry, etc., but when companies stop spending, you see the impact on your business. So we instantly realized that we could see a hit on our business because there could be a demand side issue, there could be a supply side issue, and therefore, let's be ready to see the worst. We thought we'll be minus 20% in terms of revenue. We could even be minus 50% in revenue. And that was the scenarios we immediately started planning. Thanks to some people who gave us the advice that start thinking about these plans, we made these plans. The good thing we did was we started telling everyone about these plans very early on. We started to have 4 town hall meetings a week. two in each time zone, right? And told them everything that was going on. This is how we are thinking about it. We may be minus 20%. We are in minus 20%. We wanted to break even, and minus 50% we wanted to be liquid. That was a plan. Now it so turned out that we didn't have any. It was not a minus at all. It was a plus for us. This was a crisis that did not evolve the way we expected other crises to evolve. Demand actually took off, and we grew the business, and we could actually hire more people. We ended up hiring 600 people through the crisis. In the last 1 year, we looked at 275,000 resumes and processed all of them and hired 600 people. So we had to move everything to a digital way of working and hire in this space. But we had to quickly move from extreme pessimism, extreme lack of clarity, to saying this is a great time. Let's just go hire as many people as possible because demand is uncapped, right? And let's see how to onboard these people. Many challenges in the way we had to operate. And many learnings, and especially around employee health and well-being and so on, which I mean, I'm sure I can come to as we continue the conversation. But the highlight was clear transparency, getting to the people and saying, this is what is going on. No one will be fired. We will go through minus 20%. We will break even because we don't have to fire anybody for that. So we went and said, normally during performance appraisal time around March, we let go of roughly 0.5% of the company. Roughly. I mean, 0.5% to 1% is performance-based attrition that happens. So in a 2,000 people company like us, that means about 20 people or 10 people or something like that. It's not a very large number, but it's still a number. But we went back and said to our people that this year that is not going to happen, because we don't want you to go look for a job while we are going through a very tough time. You're going through a personally tough time, a health crisis where you're worried, etc. So we brought in empathy, we brought in clear communication, and we brought in speed of decision making. We've attached our goals to everybody's goals were reassigned to Fractal's goals. We said, if Fractal does well, we're all okay. Let's not forget our individual goals and KRAs, etc. Let's just focus on the Fractal goals. Some of these things really helped us. And I think most importantly, luck was on our side. This crisis did not affect us. We were digital natives. And demand was going up. So it made everything a lot easier as well.
Thanks so much, Srikanth, for sharing that experience. You know, I do remember very early on when the crisis hit us last year, I think the decision in our firm was to put people in front, right? Put them at the center of everything. All decisions happened for them, whether it was their wellness, whether it was ensuring that we took care of their salaries, and obviously the leadership took whatever calls based on their things. And that was very clear, and obviously the communication and everything. Ashok, I'm sure you must be having a lot of stories and a lot of things, about how you dealt with it and what worked and did not work. Just wanted to hear from you on that.
Sure. So, I echo what Srikanth stated. If you really look at this crisis, everybody, if you ask people, they say we had a BCP, business continuity plan, but the focus was an office going down or a city going down or a country going down. Nobody thought that the impact is going to be global, right? So the idea, you wake up one morning and you say the whole of the world has come to a halt, right? And what that does is, if you really look at people, because we are a people organization, we're about 80,000 people across the globe in 100 plus countries. What really happens is it plays on the psyche of people, mentally and physically, right? It is what's going to happen, right? What's going to happen to me, my health, my family's health, right? That's the first thing that plays in their mind. And they are going through their own sets of crises in the situation that they are. And then the second element that kicks in is, do I have a job? Because, if you're going to go south, what's my financial, situation going to be? And we realized that very quickly. Way back in March itself, we realized that, BCP that we have is country specific, it's not global. And in a way it was good, because guess what, you cannot apply the global policies to different countries, right? You have to think about the policies that are applied in a given set of countries, because the cultural needs are very different. So it became very clear that we would need to give succinct messages to people, right? It has to be clear what we are doing, why we are doing, and how they are important to us. So, right from the leadership level, there were cadence set up, established, as Shrikant mentioned. We wanted to remove all distractions because there are a lot of rumors start, right? If you are not communicating, rumors start. So all distractions had to be removed from the thing. We had to instill confidence in our staff, our people, give them assurance and commitment, right? And our assurance and commitment was that we are going to take care of you. Your welfare is very, very important to us. Your employment is an assurance. You should not assume that you're losing a job. Now, what that does is, if you really look at Maslow's, hierarchy, what you're doing is you're meeting their physiological needs right there. Okay. Then it comes to the security. Job security is there. Hey, you know what? I'm secure right now. So the aspects were to handle those 2 points relatively quickly. But while we were doing that, we also realized that, what's going to be the outlook of our business. Okay. And it was for every business, as a matter of fact, anywhere in the world. So we started engaging with our clients very quickly to say, hey, we are going through this time, and they would also reciprocate and acknowledge that they're also going through the same situation, right? So it was actually setting a baseline with every partner of ours, whether it was a client or a vendor, to say, hey, this is where we are and this is how we should work together. So while we were focusing on our employees, we were setting a baseline with our partners. And then we started looking at the business outlook. And what we started doing was, as Shrikant mentioned, we were very open and transparent with our employees. This is where we are. This is what it looks like. This is where we are trending. All right. And we would need your support. All right. And you are all very, very important to us. So the whole message that was going out was that we're not leaving you behind. You're important for us. You need to be engaged. We kept engaging them. Of course, I think every organization across the world tested their IT organizations. All right. I believe IT came out strong. There's no doubt about it that, we have got to a point where people are connected, people talk, we are talking today, so the question is, technology served its purpose. It was more to talk about the people's well-being, right? How can we support them where they are, right? Some people were living in the PG, so everybody had a very different dynamics of operation. So whatever support we could give financially, we continued. And I think the support to the point that we know that vaccination is important, right? People are not going to come to the office. The new normal is set in. So we have started, building our plans for the future in line with what we foresee coming. Fortunately, as Shrikant has said, we are also seeing an upside to our business. And there is a rampant hiring spree. So people who are already with the organization now feel the confidence that it's not just us, that we are secure, but they are going and hiring more. That means there is, I'm at an organization that's not only taken care of us, but I believe there's an opportunity for growth. So I believe the messaging was very clear that people are critical to us, people are important, and our focus was that, and it will continue to remain.
No, thanks so much, Ashok. I think what came out very clearly from organizations such as yours, organizations that we all work in, is that they put us all, they put the people in front, and they actually built up communication plans. Obviously most of us had the technologies, so that got tested. But the silver lining in all this was the fact that our clients could work with us, right? And I'm sure your partners, could work in this distributed environment. Just today, we are actually all sitting in our homes, moderating this panel. I'm doing this out here, and we have maybe thousands and thousands of people sitting in their homes and hearing, right? So business can function, and obviously all of us grew during this time financially. Our organizations became stronger, and obviously that whole has gone in. So I think managing a lot of that goes to the credit of how everyone responded to each other and made it work. One of the points that has come up often, right, during the discussions is that obviously this upheaval or this crisis was not equal in its impact for everyone. Some people felt it a little bit more. Some felt it differently, and we all, tried to manage it for us. And, we've all put policies and processes to actually manage that. But I wanted to actually, Ashok, maybe I'll start with you. I'm sure in your organization, with the variety of people that you have, obviously you've had, you may have seen that difference. And how did you deal with it?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, right, every person has a very different, situation that they are living through. Our company has a very clear focus on diversity and inclusion, right? So whenever we are in such a crisis, it amplifies very quickly, right? How are you doing this? We realized that, as I said, we set the expectations of our own employees of what they're critical, they're important, they have to remain engaged. And we also did the same thing with our clients and partners. But what we started doing was, how do we make our employees more effective, right? Do we need to make them more effective is not only through technology, but should we give them allowances so that wherever they are, it becomes their home office. Let's make a home office for them, all right? Now, but guess what? You make a home office, but working in a home is very different than working in a true office, right? It's a virtual office because there are too many distractions that happen. So realizing that there are going to be distractions, we made it very clear that it has to be flexi hours. We cannot force people. We cannot monitor their task, but we should monitor their outcomes, right? Hey, when you deliver is one aspect, but this is what the expectation is. So we were focusing more on the outcomes. The other aspect was that, we realized that the work-life balance has completely changed. We talk about, this word work-life balance. When we were in offices, we used to talk about work-life balance. Guess what? You're working virtually and you talk about work-life balance. It's a misnomer, right? It doesn't fit well. So what we said was we started setting expectations with people. We restarted setting expectations, right? Flexi hours, you work flexi hours, it's outcome-based. We started rethinking the meetings, right? Because guess what? If you today look at your calendar, it's filled with meetings. Now, how effective will you be? Do you need to be in every meeting? How do you, so we re-looked at the concept of meetings, right? You have to collaborate is one aspect, but having meetings for the sake of having meetings, we were very, very focused on that. And we also realized and started communicating that we know productivity will suffer. It was not that we will ding you because you've not been able to deliver, but there is a certain expectation. We did that aspect pretty effectively and it's worked very well. The other aspect was that we extended the delivery commitments also. We said, you know what, if you can't deliver by this, it's all right. We know it, we understand it. And finally, as a test model, what we started doing was failovers, right? So, hey, if you're getting loaded with our staff, if the staff is getting overwhelmed with work, I can't tell him you take a time off, I'll give you comp off. He'll say, what am I going to do with it, right? So what you really need to do is offload that work to another country. Okay, a country which is more stable. So every country went through its own phases of or the waves of this. And we started leveraging people across. And the great thing that we saw was this community that started building up. People who were really not interacting across geographies, started bonding effectively. And today, I believe that we have set this ecosystem so effectively that I know if India is loaded, I can ask Philippines to help me. Or if Philippines is loaded, I can ask China to help me. If China is loaded, I can go to Costa Rica. So today, I have the ability to move my work across and actually bring a true work-life balance by saying, people, you know what, your Saturdays and Sundays, it has to be with you. If your family is sick, you have to be with your family. So it was a very clear message. Health is first, then is family, then is work. So I believe that's the way we manage the situation.
Very interesting, Ashok, and thank you for sharing that. Srikanth, can I ask you, because obviously your organization must have also had people feeling varied levels of inequality of this crisis and how you dealt with it.
See, firstly, Sudhir, I think that crises are very uneven in the way they come through. And unfortunately, for this crisis, there were a lot of physical, real world businesses that went through a very difficult time. I mean, some of the Ashok's business or our business were much more digitally ready, or even PwC's business, very digitally ready to tackle something like this. And there was also overall a good demand situation, which was in some ways made everything a lot easier. But for many other sectors, it wasn't the case. And I think We instructed to see how they dealt with it. It was very unequal for them. People who had physical labor, manual labor, any such jobs were really affected. Even within our kind of business, right? What we found was that it has an higher effect. For example, women had more challenging setup, because if women are, especially in a joint family situation or a large family situation, or in situations that are involving kids and so on, women were taking I think probably a lot more of the pressure than men, which is not necessarily how it should be, but that's how it is right now. So we could see that was happening. Secondly, I think even from an emotional well-being standpoint, there was a mixed effect across the board. There are some who had huge emotional well-being needs and mental health related challenges, which we had to support. So some people who are more extroverted, they had more trouble because sitting at home, not able to talk to anybody, not able to meet people. For people who like to who generate ideas by actually chatting with others, right? There are people like us who are much more, who basically think with other people, right? Like me, for example, I would have a challenge in sort of sitting alone in a corner and sort of writing in my notebook and trying to do some thinking, which would be difficult. So we had seen that people have different preferences, and for some people it was a lot easier, and for some people it was a lot harder. I think what we had to do was to make sure that we understood those issues, right? I mean, that we are not putting extraordinary asks of people, because in general, what we have thought about previously about people, our model for people has been that, oh, there is someone called X who shows up at 9 a.m. in the morning and works till 6 p.m. And I don't care what else she or he does, as long as she delivers what. I mean, that's the general model of how people have been dealing with people, with other people in offices, right? It was very clear that a person is now someone who has emotions, has feelings, has families, has health issues, has economic worries, financial stresses. They're a package of all of these things. They show up every day, remarkably, somehow they show up and get work done, but there's a lot of other things that they're actually trying to do. And some of them have become harder or more challenging this time. Therefore, how can you be there for them? So for example, setting up a way for mental health services, right? For example, we enable them to meet any psychiatrist, psychologist, etc., or a mental health chatbot they could connect with. How could they could reach out to anybody from the human capital team and have a conversation with them. We would do some virtual coffee sessions. They could sort of air it out. They could do some, Zumba sessions or yoga sessions, basically create various avenues for people to come and sort of be themselves, have discussion with other people, make the human to human connection. Because frankly, this is the only way in which we can deal with a crisis, when other human beings who are supportive, who are understanding, who listen to you, and sort of help you out during that period, because eventually all of us will get through it. It's just that you need a little bit extra support during that time. So being that and doing that was really the way in which we tackled it, to firstly understand that this is what's going on. Not everybody can be expected to do everything exactly the same way. We said, go take off. Fractal has an unlimited vacation policy in any case, right? These are the kinds of things that come in handy. And we said, anybody who wants to take time off, please take time off. Don't have to explain anything. Just take time off. And therefore, chill out, get things in order. You have to cook at home, you have a family at home, kids have summer vacation. There are all kinds of things happening. So manage those situations and come back as soon as you can. And therefore, and other people who can support, please go ahead and support. So during the second wave, for example, we had a situation where 20% of Fractal was down with COVID or attending to a loved one. That was the situation during wave 2. And therefore, the remaining 80% had to handle all of the load. So we could manage, because we have this expectation that, when you can take time off, go take time off. So when we need you, and will you rise to the occasion? Yes, people did. And we had almost 20% of our on the engagements that we were working on had a team member who was off, who was not available, which meant that timelines were delayed. We could negotiate those with clients, and clients were very understanding in general. But still, delivering that required a lot of extra effort from the people who could. So this kind of a culture, which is flexible, open, and basically understanding of people's unique emotional and physical needs, is a kind of culture that can survive a crisis like this. And I think that's what we experienced here. And some of these things which look fancy, and why is it so extreme, modern, whatever things, these actually have played out extremely well. This kind of a culture has really shown its resilience during this crisis.
Yeah, I totally agree with what has been stated right now, because if you really look at it, what Srikanth is saying, we have to meet the emotional needs of people. And I think the fact that, psychologically what they're going through, how do we support them? How do we keep connecting with them, in different forums, different ways? And how I believe the people organization, which we call the chief talent officers and their teams, I think have done a remarkable job, because their role has been very, very critical in establishing the relationships with the people, looking after their well-being, making sure that they're still connected, because guess what? When you're out of sight, out of mind, their loyalties start shifting. You see a shift in loyalties, right? Because they feel that we are not connected anymore to the organization. So I totally agree with what Srikanth just stated. And I think that was the right approach. That's absolutely right approach.
I must agree with, both of you. In fact, I have seen, with the examples that you've given, I've seen within our own organization, how, obviously everyone responded to this, how everyone came together. And I'm sure in all our organizations, the volunteer groups that came together, right? They weren't people of authority. They just emerged. They were doing whatever it took to actually help their colleagues out, whether it was oxygen, whether it was plasma at that time, medication, helping somebody's family in another town. We saw a very different kind of bonding that took place, right? And I think that's what mankind is all about. I mean, we come together during this crisis. We had our organizations, our people come together, right? And I truly believe that whatever we did as an organization, to take care of this crisis, or what we are doing for this work, I think it's created a better bonding with our people. We've started understanding our people better. But at the same time, I realize that, I'm sure in all our organizations, about 5% of people who've just joined, the newcomers, right? We haven't even seen them, right? We haven't met them. Now, obviously we'll have to work towards that. So I think that's the next level of challenge that all of us will be going through to take care of that. But, let me move on to another subject, right? We've spoken about how we took care of people. Both of you lead organizations. Both of you actually have managers taking care of people. And it must have been a very tough time during that crisis, right? When, obviously you don't know what's going to happen in the future, but you realize that, we have to take care of our people. We have to take care of our organizations. Our organization is our people. I just wanted to actually just get a glimpse of what went through your minds at that time, right? How was that decision making happening? During that time, how did you provide strength? How did you provide strength to your leadership team, right? And how did it all come together? Because I think, one thing leads to another. And I think that's what actually creates the resilience in any organizations or anything, anywhere in the world, right? So maybe Srikanth, let me start with you.
So my model of leadership involves two most important things. One is clarity and second is optimism, right? In a very difficult time, and when things are very dark and you can't see even 5 feet ahead of you, right? Can you provide the best clarity that you have to the rest of the organization, to the rest of the tribe, right? That's a very, very important part of leadership. And in some ways I felt it was actually easier because, in very good times, there's a lot going on and there's so much, right? And you have to try to balance everything out and provide a clear perspective. But in a very difficult time, the priorities become laser focused, right? It's like we have to survive, we have to get through this together and so on. So a crisis reveals those values, the culture that you already have and so on. The trade-offs become much more sharper in contrast. So that was easy in some ways to provide that clarity. For example, saying no one will be fired. It was easy. Like it was very easy because in other times, in good times, you would say, but how is it performance oriented? Where is meritocracy going? You have all these kinds of questions, genuine questions that you have answered. Here, it was very clear. People are hurting. You can't do this, right? we have, so that was easy. So in that sense, clarity is the first step in my mind. And it was in my, at least to me, it was easier to provide clarity in a tougher situation than in a normal situation. The second one is optimism, which is like, yes, it will end, it will happen. We will get through this together, right? Just no matter what happens, here are some bright spots, focus on the bright spots, just hang in there and we'll get through this together, right? That's the second aspect of it, which again, I found it to be relatively easier because, I'm the kind of guy who sells when market is buying and buys when market is selling. So it was easy for me. Okay, this is shit has hit the ceiling. Now it can only get better from here. We've hit the rock bottom. We can only get better from here. Rest assured, we will get through this together. And this was a crisis where the whole world was experiencing at the same time. That was another unique feature of this crisis, which in some ways made it easier. Empathy was a lot easier on everybody because they knew that, okay, if this is happening to me, that's happened to them. In the second wave, it was a little harder because, India was going through this alone, where the rest of the world, happily coming back to normal, which is a little harder. But in general, positive, clarity and optimism, I think, was something that we could, I felt it was easier to bring it. And once you have that extreme clarity and optimism, everybody else just takes that message and goes along with it as well. Because in good times, you are sort of giving a bunch of different messages. You're a little confused or confusing other people. But here it was very clear. It was very easy. So at least I found it to be a easier time overall as a leader to navigate something like this. Because it was so easy. It was so obvious that this is the right thing to do. And we could just go ahead and do it with our people.
No, thanks for sharing that, Srikanth. Ashok, what about, what were your thought process and how did you deal with it?
So I totally agree with what Srikanth just stated. And just to explain the message of optimism, it was to the point that everybody got a salary increase. Hey, you know what? You're in the downturn, but guess what? You got your salary increases. All right. Guess what? You got your bonuses. So it was not the fact that what the business is doing. It's the fact that you are important. And we still value you, right? But I think the bigger message that I had actually started establishing way back with my teams was that we are a family. And I used to explain this in several different town halls and explain them why we are a family. I would say you get up early in the morning, you spend very little time with your family, you commute, and then you spend 8 hours of time with your colleagues. All right. And then you are on you commute, you go back and you're actually spending only a couple of hours. So if you really look at it, the amount of time that you're spending with your family itself is half the time that you're spending in, right? So the idea is that we are a family and we have to, realize and we have to have empathy with each of us, right? It's us as a family, and we have to look at the welfare of our family. So I think that message had got very well ingrained within the leadership team that I had. The other aspect was that we said that anything that we are communicating that's coming from the leadership has to be further communicated effectively, right? So if people are not getting that message, we should repeat the same message and be very clear and succinct. Let's not give different colors to it. Let's keep the message simple and clear. The other thing was that, again, the word of work-life balance, right? I said, don't use this word, demonstrate it, all right? When you say work-life balance, it means that you're going to tell people, work flexi hours. You're not forcing people on delivery. You are not forcing people on commitments that are unreasonable at this time. And they realized that they were also under the same thing, right? I was not enforcing the same thing on them, which translated into the rest of the organization. So the teams that I had, realized that if we have to really work, we have to work as a family and support each other. And I totally agree with Srikanth. It was clear communication, clarity of communication, and optimism that, hey, we're going to come out of this. Guess what? This is wave 2. People are talking about wave 3, right? And I'm saying, okay, it's wave 3, wave 4, whatever. But this has taught us a very, very sound message, right? It's a lesson that we are learning, and we need to adapt, right? We may need to do things a little differently in the way we approach things, right? But the fact is that we'll have to be more adaptive to a situation, more flexible in a way of thinking, and not be rigid. I think that's the messages that the team leaders got. And I think they're pursuing on the same thread. And I'm happy that the organization as a whole, really stood up and supported each other during this crisis. And I think this is going to continue for a while. It's not gone. But it's not just as a company. I don't look at it as just Publicis. I look at it as a community. I look at it as a country. I look at it as a world. We've all actually, if you really look at it, across the world have been supporting each other. And I think that according to me is a positive sign that we recognize and realize that there is human value.
Thank you so much, Ashok. That was a very interesting perspective, to what went through. What I'm going to do is I've just done a quick time check, and I know that we are coming towards the end. But I wanted to speak about, obviously, as we spoke right in the beginning, we've had this crisis last year. We've had another dose this year. And whether it's the virus or whether it's something else, these crisis is a part of our lives, and they will continue to come and go, right? And we will continue to evolve. There are some lessons that we've learned from the last two crises that we've gone through. And I wanted to actually just ask you, Ashok, first, what have been the lessons, and how have you incorporated these lessons into, whatever playbooks or methodologies or all those BCP plans and everything like our company, our organizations have, right? Because we didn't use any of those when we were dealing with this, right?
Yeah, so I think we have to relook at the word BCP, to be honest. It should not be a binder that is catching dust. And, you look at it once a year and then get it endorsed by an audit, get it audited and say, yeah, it works, right? And again, it catches dust. I think the true test of BCP has happened. And I think majority of the organizations have come out strong. But there are, as we went through it, at least for us, understanding the cultural nuances of how people are dealing with situations in different parts of the world, I think it was a very big lesson learned, because we could not apply the same level of communication, same type of communication, same way of communicating things, right, across the globe. So we had to be very, very careful about that. The second is, people could be in a state of denial or anger or there is sadness, and are they willing to accept what's happening? I think for every person, they were at a different stage. And I think basis that, there was a lot of learning that how do we actually communicate when people are going through different psychological phases, right? And I think the CTOs have realized that, there has to be a little more work done around that area, because we need to be, the empathy that we show has to be tailored to an individual rather than to a team, right? Rather than, to the people at large. So that is the other area. The third one is we have all understood from a tactical perspective that work-life balance is important, and we have to be flexible. But how do we actually make changes in the way we do things, right? Our mindset has to change, where we bring in these kind of flexibilities that people really realize that they have work-life balance. As a matter of fact, I believe the productivity went up. People were burnt out during this time because guess what? They were not commuting. So the expectation was, hey, you have your work-life balance. I'll give you a comp off, but you go to vacations. And the person would just look around and you say, what are you talking about? I can't step out of my house, right? And you're telling me to take vacation. It doesn't make sense. So those were some very key learnings that we've got. And the other thing is that we, as Srikanth mentioned, right, his people were all over the place connecting virtually. And the same thing happened with us. We were all together at either in Gurgaon, Noida, Bangalore, or Bombay. But as soon as this crisis happened, people went back to their hometowns. All right. And when they went there, one, there was a connectivity issues and whatever, right? So that's one side of the flavor. So how do we make sure that now I don't want them to come all the way back to the nerve centers, right? Do we need to start rethinking our office space management, right? Do we need to rethink return to the office strategy? I think the whole idea of how we build new offices, right? Do we need to go with satellite offices? Do we need to? So there are a lot of those conversations that have started within the organization. And what I've started seeing is, as you mentioned earlier, that new hiring new people. How do we make sure that they become a part of our culture, right? It's very difficult when they're not physically present. But the other aspect is that, as Srikanth mentioned and I'm mentioning, we are hiring. All right. So guess what? If I'm hiring, somebody is leaving. So the attritions have also gone up, right? So, you hire from me, I hire for you. There's only a fixed amount of skilled labor that's available. And the challenge is that in this scenario where now people have realized that they can work from anywhere and companies are willing to hire them, the whole model of, retaining staff is going to change. So I think the ideas around this is going to change. But the focus will continue to be on empathy of people, how we empathize with people, how we embrace new thinking, how flexible we are, and hybrid working model. I think people will be critical for us, but I think there are 2 or 3 main things. One, onboarding new people, and how do we stop the bleed of attrition? Because people, if you don't keep them engaged, you don't start, you've done it now, you'll have to continue doing this, so that they feel engaged. So that's my 2 cents.
Srikanth, learnings from you?
Yeah, thanks, Sudhir. See, firstly, like I said before, a crisis are a test of leadership. Its values and culture become far clearer during times of crisis than in good times. Because in good times, more of everything is possible.
Correct.
Only in challenging times, trade-offs are forced upon us, and that your true preferences are revealed. Right. So in that sense, it is a huge test of leadership how we behave, and I think every leader should know that they are being watched, whether we or everybody else. People are actually seeing how you behave. So I think in that sense, being ready for a future crisis is very important, and a future crisis would be somewhat in different shape and character than this one, right? There are some features about this crisis which will not be there next time, but I think what will be required is clarity and optimism will be required during that time as well, right? One thing we've learned in this crisis is also taking a holistic view of employees, that they're not a magical bot that shows up from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and efficiently they get things done or something like that. It's not true. They are people, they have feelings, they have emotions, they have all kinds of stresses and strains and worries and health issues and so on. So take a holistic view of people, treat them as a family. A family is a unit that works for you. It's not a person. That is the reality. And people who have not, I hope people have understood that. And I hope we don't go back to thinking of people as one unit who's showing up for work. It's actually the whole family who's engaged with them, their parents, their children, my daughter speaks more about Fractal than I could have imagined, and so on. It's the whole family is involved in what you're doing, right? The third thing I learned in this crisis is that this specifically felt like local trumps global, right? Whatever local reactions were very important. We had things like, we created a crisis communications team called FACET, right, which is Fractal Critical Events Team, and we had to have regional leaders who take a lot of regional decisions every day on how to keep employees safe, how to get them tested, how to get them vaccinated, all kinds of things came up. But we realized that when you need tremendous speed, centralization doesn't work. Localization, even if you see which parts of India did well, cities and small places with great mukhia would do a great job of keeping a whole city or a little town protected, whereas bigger places actually did not. Right? So local trumps global, in our opinion. And I think this, at the same time, you saw that people can work from anywhere. So there was a global there's an angle of saying you can work from anywhere, everything is global. But if you need real speed and empathy and responsiveness, you need to be local. So that's the other thing which I think was very interesting and important to me. And a couple of others I'll just point out. I think Ashok has also mentioned, it's important that as leaders, we confront reality, right? A crisis happened. Don't just look at yesterday's stuff. Don't look at yesterday's forecast, and all of that stuff it's no longer valid. Just this is what is real, and don't just assume that everything is not the same. And people and others might say, look, it's hard for people to move with the cheese, right? They just want to stick to a past that is no longer true. So I think getting very quickly and saying this is the reality. Let's confront reality. Let's deal with it. let's have clarity and optimism. That's and mostly, and the last couple of things I'll say is, don't make any knee-jerk reactions. It's important that, look, we thought we'd be minus 20% or minus 50%, but we did not make those decisions assuming that will happen. We said it might happen, let's be ready for it, but let's not act on it till we know the data. And it turned out that we had plus 20 instead of minus 20, right? And if we had done some knee-jerk things, it would have really shot us in the foot. We would have done some very stupid things. So do not make knee-jerk reactions. Acting with speed is important, but do let some data come in so that you can know what is the right thing to do. And a last point I'd say is empathy and making people part of decisions. You have to bring your humanity into this. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. And if people are part of that, really bad things can happen. And people have dealt with so much crisis in their lives. And as the world, we have seen so many bad things happen in the world. But when you make people part of the decisions and show empathy, I think you can get through any crisis together. So I think that's the biggest lesson of all for me.
No, that was very, very helpful, Srikanth. And I must say, Ashok and Srikanth, thank you so much for sharing your experiences, right, on how your organizations dealt with it and how everything came together. Obviously, as we close this session, the message that I want to give, obviously, we've heard, Srikanth, we've heard Ashok, two different businesses, maybe in technology, but we are in a technology forum out here. How people came together to actually take care of the crisis. I think that's one sense, obviously, which is very important because that's what humanity works towards. The second thing that I'm actually getting, that organizations started understanding their employees much better. So if you really look at it, right, and I work with several organizations, empathy, I think truly corporate India or maybe globally understood what empathy really means, how we actually dealt with people, how we understood what was happening in their families. Many managers realized that they were not just dealing with an individual, they were dealing with a family when they were taking care of a crisis, right? Working with each other during downtimes, making sure that delivery doesn't get missed out. Because for us, making sure that business carries on, everything was revolving. The world reset for us so that we could survive. I think that's been the greatest learning. Our businesses started working with each other. Our clients started working with us. I think the entire pace of everything has changed, and it has actually worked towards us. And I think that's going to remain. A lot of what we have gone through is going to be very important for us to make sure that balance is achieved as we go along. But the biggest gainers of all this is other people, right? And that's where I would like to end this session and thank all of you for joining in. And if you have questions, I'm sure you all can send us an email or actually send it through the chat bots, and we'll be very happy to engage with you whenever the opportunity arises. So Ashok and Srikanth, thank you so much. And this concludes our session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhir. Thank you, Ashok.
Thank you.
Thank you.